Hey everybody, welcome back to Everything Ham Radio. My name is Curtis. Call sign is Kilo 5 Charlie Lima Mike. Today we are going to be talking about something that has come around again. Back in 2017, back when I had my podcast, I found something on QRZ that sounded pretty interesting. It was a survey that was being done by a fellow ham, and it was called the State of the Hobby, I believe is what it was called. And it was just kind of a general questionnaire as far as, my thoughts on how the FCC was doing, how the ARRL was doing, what bands I frequently used, and stuff like that. So the first time he did it was in 2017. And he got 688 responses. Now, that doesn't really seem like much. It's just kind of a drop in the bucket as far as, compared to the total number of hams right now. But being the first year, it was pretty good. Last year when he did it in 2018, he had a 324% increase in people that took that survey, and it was 2,919 people actually took the survey. What really surprised me though was that only 6.85% of the people that took it in 2018 took it in 2017. So a very small number, probably less than about 100 people or so took both surveys. I was one of the ones that took it. I've taken all 3 years. And it's had some really interesting results. I'm going to have a link down in the description below for the gentleman's blog, which he has all the surveys on, as well as a direct link to the survey results for 2017 and 2018, as well as the survey for this year. Now, this year, it opened up the 1st of March, which was a couple days ago, and it's going to be open all the way through the end of March. So a full 31 days, this survey is going to be open. Last year, he only did it for 2 weeks. So he has extended it to the full month, and hopefully he's going to have a pretty good response. Some very interesting things as I was looking through the results for the last 2 years, that I thought was really interesting. First off, one of the things that was mentioned was, or one of the questions was, what is the largest issue that you see facing the hobby today? And both in 2017 and 2018 was lack of interest. There was things like Elmers, the old timers or the young fellows was pretty high on the list as well. Typically the older hams said it was the younger hams, and the younger hams says it was the newer hams, and both of them I think were like third or fourth on the list as respectively. But one of the things also that I found interesting was the ages of those responding. In 2017, out of the 688 people that answered the survey, 51% of them was 45 years of age or older. So better than half of them was over 45. And in 2018, it jumped drastically to 76% of the people that answered this survey was over the age of 45. Now, nope, I'm sorry, that's not right. 79% of them was over the age of 45. And it was a pretty good chunk. It was like, even over the age of 55, it was something along the lines of like 55% or 58% in 2018. Now, granted, both of these are a very small portion of the amateur radio community, but still, for those that answered, it's really kind of shocking that it was that high of an age bracket on the hams that answered. That 79% of them last year were over the age of 45, and like 58% was over 55. Now, one of the other questions is whether or not your spouse participates in the hobby or is a licensed amateur as well. In 2017, 78% of them said no. And it didn't change much in 2018. It was 76% that said no. On the flip side of that, in 2017, 15% of them said yes, and 13% said yes in 2018. So there's a little bit less there. And then in 2017, 7% of them said that they do participate, but only or unwillingly participate, so to speak. And in 2018 was 11%. So that went up slightly, and the those that are willingly participating in the hobby went down slightly. In 2017, the answers for the most used bands kind of surprised me a little bit. In 2017, the top bands were 2 meters, 40 meters, 20 meters, 70 centimeters, and 80 meters. That's the top 5 in that order. It changed slightly in 2018. The bands stayed the same, but the order changed. This time around, 40 meters was number 1, followed by 20, 2 meters, 70 centimeter, and 80 meters. So 80 meters stayed in the 5th place, 70 centimeters stayed in the 4th place, and then the 2, 20, and 40 kind of did a flip-flop. And that could very well be because more people answered and got a better picture of the actual usage. Who's to say? But in that same context, though, the license class of those that answered in 2017, there was 46% were extras, 28% were generals, and 11 were technicians. In 2018, 52% of that answered were extras, 22% generals, and 6% technicians. So in a way, that kind of tells me that the HF bands maybe are not represent, or the VHF bands rather, are not really represented well in this survey for both years. Well, at least for the last year, because there was so many extras and so many generals that answered. Typically those with the higher class are going to be using HF more so than VHF. Not for me though. Another thing that really surprised me was the logging method that's used. I would typically think that it would be some kind of logging program or something like that. That was number 1, but in both years, pen and paper log was the number 1 answer, and it was the number 1 answer by pretty good margin, like 10%, I think, if memory serves me correct. Another thing that in 2018, one of the questions was whether or not you had encouraged someone to get their ham license. And of those that answered, of the almost 3,000 people that answered, 79% of them said yes, and 21% said no. So that tells me that we as a hobby, or at least this small group here, is actively trying to expand the hobby and get new people in. But on the flip side of that, those that actually, the results of that encouragement is kind of discouraging. Out of those that answered this question, 37% of them said yes, they did get their license, 29% said no, and 34% didn't know. So of the 34% that didn't know, that tells me that potentially we have an elmering problem, which I've said several times both in my podcast and on some earlier videos that I've done, as well as throughout several blog posts. I think that's one of the major issues that I see is a lack of elmering. Getting those new hams in and keeping them in. And honestly, I'm guilty of that as well. But I think that's one of the major things that we as a hobby need to work on. And the last thing that I want to mention, in 2018, a question was asked whether or not, or what kind of repeaters, what are the new repeaters that gone in your area. And the number one response for new repeaters was DMR. And second was C4FM, which is understandable because during this time period, Yaesu had a special going on of, a really cheap repeater. I think it was like $500. You could get a C4FM repeater for your club. So that really doesn't surprise me. Along with that, in 2018, I believe the Yaesu radios were the number one radios being used. So that kind of doesn't surprise me. And then third on the list was 2 meters. Those are the top three: DMR, C4FM, and 2 meter repeaters. So those are kind of the things that I found rather interesting in this survey. If you want to go and check out the full survey results, like I said, I will have a link in the description below. So check those out, and also check out the survey. It takes about 5 minutes or so to go through this year's survey. There's probably, I don't know, maybe 30 questions or so that you have to read through and answer. I actually did it earlier this morning for this year, for 2019. So go over there and take the survey, and give him some more data to work with this year. I know having it a month open, he's going to have a massive amounts of data, and hopefully we'll definitely top that 2919 that we had last year for this survey. Now, let me back up here. I said I am not affiliated with this survey in any way, shape, or form, but I did find it rather interesting, and I have helped promote it the last couple of years. So I thought it only right to do so again this year. And I find the data very interesting, the results of that rather interesting. So please head on over there and take the survey. Like I said, it'll take 5-10 minutes to answer it, 15 tops. And, it may not be a big help for anybody, but it's interesting. So, like I said, check out the link in the description and head on over there and answer those questions. So that's pretty much all that I have today. I want to thank y'all very much for tuning in and watching this video, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Check out my blog at everythinghamradio.com. Currently, I am doing a series of blog posts over this month where I am introducing the newly elected or re-elected section managers that will take office in April, on April 1st. So I'm be doing a blog post every Monday and Wednesday on the new ones. 2 of them, I believe, will go up by the time this video does. Maybe 1 of them will have. But check those out. Get to know these new section managers. If you live in one of the areas where there's a new section manager, maybe you already know about them, but I like to know about the other ones as well. So I'm gonna be doing those. So check those out. Sign up for the mailing list, so you get so you get an email on when I put up a new post. Now, the email list only goes out on Saturdays, so it's kind of a review. In the last couple weeks, I've been pretty active on both the blog and here on YouTube, and I'm really starting to get fired up again. And I'm hoping that that I can continue it as well. Also, this month I'm working on a series of getting your license. That's one of the things that I work on the review videos. Every Friday, I'm going to be doing them on different apps that I found to help you study to get your license. And I also want to do some videos on, different study methods, things you can do, things you need to do in order to take your test, how to find a place that you're, want to take a test at, how to find a club, stuff like that. And then maybe next month I'll touch on things like what to do after you get your license. So anyways, if this sounds interesting to you, make sure you click on that subscribe button as well as the bell icon next to it so you get notifications on when I publish a new video and you don't miss anything. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/everythhingham radio. I am on Twitter at K5CLM. I'm also on Instagram. I believe it is everything _ ham radio. But just search for Everything Ham Radio on Instagram. You'll find me, no problem. It's my logo is my picture, my avatar. So you shouldn't have any problem there. If you would like to help support this channel and this blog financially, if you go over to everythinghamradio.com/support, there are several ways you can do that. That pretty much wraps up for this video. I hope that y'all enjoyed it. And please take that survey as well. Give him some data that he can crunch. That's what he likes to do. And I really enjoy looking at the results. So anyways, the survey is going from the 1st of March to the end of March. So you got a little bit of time, but don't forget and let it pass you up. So anyways, that is all I have. So thank y'all very much for watching. And until next time, this is K5CLM 73, y'all.